There's a certain kind of man who never raises his voice in an argument. The narcissist screams, twists the story, plays the wounded victim, and he just watches. Calm, unbothered, almost bored. Most people call that weakness. They assume he's lost, that he's letting the narcissist walk all over him. Psychology says the exact opposite is happening. Because what you're watching isn't surrender. It's a strategy so quiet the narcissist never sees it coming. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how the INTJ dismantles a narcissist. Not with rage, not with revenge, but with something far more devastating than either. The INTJ is one of the rarest personality types on Earth. Less than 2% of people. Analytical, strategic, emotionally contained. And when this particular type collides with a narcissist, something unusual happens that almost nobody notices at first. You've probably seen it without knowing what you were looking at. A narcissist walks into a room, and everyone quietly adjusts. They perform, they shrink, they scramble for approval. Everyone except one person. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't chase, he just observes, like a scientist watching a specimen. Psychologists who study the dark triad, the cluster of traits behind manipulation and control, have found something crucial. Narcissists depend completely on other people's reactions. Take that away, and the entire machine collapses on itself. That's what the INTJ does, almost by accident. We're going to walk through 7 ways the INTJ quietly destroys a narcissist, and why, out of every personality type alive, this one is the narcissist's worst nightmare. Let's start with the first move, the one that ends the game before it even begins. The first thing the INTJ does is nothing at all. A narcissist's power runs entirely on emotional fuel. Psychologists call it narcissistic supply, the attention, the drama, the reaction they extract from you like a battery draining a charge. The way they get it is by pushing your buttons until you finally respond. But the INTJ's dominant mental process, what Carl Jung called introverted intuition, keeps them living several steps ahead of the present moment. They see the provocation forming before it even lands, so they don't take the bait, they simply note it and move on. To the narcissist, this feels like screaming into a void. There's no reward, no flinch, no fear, and a narcissist, starved of a reaction, is a predator standing over prey that refuses to bleed. But refusing to react is just the surface. What's happening inside the INTJ's mind while they sit there so calmly? That's where it gets fascinating. The INTJ reads people the way an engineer reads a blueprint. This type is built for pattern recognition. Where most people process others through emotion, the INTJ processes them through logic, through that same introverted intuition paired with cold, precise, extroverted thinking. They watch behavior over time and quietly map it. The tiny inconsistencies, the shifting stories, the charm that switches on and off depending on exactly who's watching. To the INTJ, the narcissist's mask isn't convincing at all. It's obvious. While everyone else is still falling for the performance, the INTJ has already traced the wiring behind it. And here's the thing about this type. Once they've truly seen the pattern, they can never unsee it. Now here's where it gets a little more complicated, because this next part is something most people, even the INTJ, rarely say out loud. The ENTJ isn't out for revenge. Revenge would require caring, and caring is the one thing the INTJ quietly withholds. This is where their story breaks away from the usual empath versus narcissist drama. The INTJ doesn't want to punish the narcissist, they simply reclassify them. In their internal system, the narcissist gets filed away as unreliable data, a person whose words never match their actions, and therefore a person to be quietly removed from anything that actually matters. And to a narcissist, indifference is far worse than hatred. Hatred is still attention. Hatred still means you think about them. Indifference means they've been erased. And this next one, most people watching the situation get it completely wrong. From the outside, it can genuinely look like the INTJ is the problem. The narcissist is loud, wounded, expressive. They perform their pain beautifully. The INTJ, meanwhile, is quiet and unmoved. So bystanders often side with the narcissist, mistaking the INTJ's composure for coldness or even cruelty. But psychologists draw a sharp line between two kinds of empathy. Affective empathy, feeling what others feel, and cognitive empathy, understanding it with precision. The INTJ runs high on the second one. They're not missing the emotion in the room. They're reading it with almost uncomfortable accuracy. So while the narcissist wins the crowd in the moment, the INTJ is already 3 moves ahead, watching the entire thing unfold with a clarity nobody else in the room possesses. If you're the kind of person who thinks about this stuff, not just who's loudest in the room, but what's actually happening underneath the surface, and you're still here with me, that tells me something about you. It would mean a lot if you hit subscribe. We break down real psychology every single week in a way that finally makes sense. Now, back to it. This is the part narcissists never see coming. When a narcissist finally realizes they've lost control, they escalate. Smear campaigns, guilt trips, sudden, suffocating charm, anything to pull you back into the loop. But the INTJ has already done something devastatingly simple. They stopped engaging and they started paying attention. Where an emotional response would hand the narcissist ammunition, calm consistency gives them absolutely nothing to work with. The INTJ lets the narcissist's own behavior become the evidence. The contradictions, the broken promises, all quietly noted, sometimes calmly shared with the exact people who needed to see it. They don't have to destroy the narcissist's image, they just stop protecting it. And left alone, with no one propping it up, a narcissist mask always slips on its own. But this is the root underneath every single thing we've talked about. The INTJ is nearly immune to manipulation because of where they anchor their sense of worth. The psychologist Julian Rotter described this as locus of control. Whether you believe your life is driven from the inside or from the outside, narcissists have a completely external locus. They need the world to constantly reflect their value back to them, or they feel like they're disappearing. The INTJ has one of the most internal loci of any type on the spectrum. Their validation comes from their own competence and their own private standards, not from you, and definitely not from a narcissist. You cannot control a person who does not need your approval. And the narcissist's entire toolkit, every tactic they have, depends on you needing theirs. Which brings us to the last one, and honestly, the most devastating of them all. The final move is the quietest thing you'll ever witness. He simply leaves. No dramatic exit, no final speech, no slam door. Once the INTJ has concluded that a person is fundamentally dishonest, the decision is final, and this type is famous for a kind of clean, irreversible cutoff. There's no door left cracked open. No hook for the narcissist to grab onto. Psychologists who study no contact as a recovery tool describe it as the single most powerful thing a person can do against the narcissist because it severs the supply completely and permanently. For the narcissist, who only feels real when they're reflected in someone else's eyes, being calmly and permanently forgotten isn't just a loss, it's a form of erasure. That is how the INTJ wins. Not by fighting the narcissist, but by quietly removing themselves from the story altogether. So the next time you see a quiet man who won't argue with a narcissist, who just watches, calm and unbothered, you'll finally know what you're really looking at. You're not looking at someone who's losing. You're looking at someone who saw the entire game early, refused to play it, and walked away with his mind completely intact. The narcissist needs an audience. The INTJ was simply never willing to be one. That's the whole difference. One of them needs to be seen in order to feel real. The other one only ever needed to understand. And understanding in the end is the one weapon a narcissist can never take away from you. If this made something click for you, I put together a video on how the INTJ mind actually works beneath the surface. I think it'll hit just as hard as this one did. It's right here, waiting whenever you're ready.